how long do we have to rely on these donations? Because when they do run out, then your organization won't be able to move forward. I always wondered, okay, what's next? Especially when we give food to the homeless people. Whilst it is, of course, needed, what's going to happen tomorrow or next
What
week,
is the long-term sustainability of it?
Because they're going to be in the vicious cycle, which is something that none of us want, because then the problem will still be there. Funny story. So in the UK, in my first year, there's a freshers fair, much like orientation week in Malaysia, right? And I was on my way back when suddenly, literally, this man jumped out of nowhere and asked me, "Do you want to change the world?" What do you say to that? Of course, you say yes.
I'm not sure.
The lesser you focus on these group of people that are just trying to bring you down, the better you are at in actually acquiring them to be your allies. I think it's time for us to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. Every generation at the moment, it's your fault. No, you need to understand me. I need to understand you. No, you need to understand me. There's a lot of those things going on. And I feel like the world needs a bit more empathy and compassion.
Welcome to Living in Control podcast. I am your host, Phoebe, Operations Manager at In Control Group, an organization with a mission to help others be in control of their lives and careers. We imagine a world in which most people are in control of their lives, a conscious life accompanied by conversion, contentment, and consistency. So today on our podcast, we have a very special guest who has made a huge impact and continues to make a big difference in the lives of youth all around the world. Advocating for children's right to education as well as youth employment, let's welcome Raudhah, the CEO and founder of Accelerate Global.
Hi, Phoebe. How are you doing?
Good. And how are you doing? I heard you had a crisis this morning.
Yeah, a little bit. But it's crisis every day, but that's the fun of it when you start a social enterprise.
Yes, that's true. And especially if you have a team that helps you very well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So can you share a little about what you do and what does Accelerate Global do?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on your podcast today. It's really honored. I'm really honored to be here. And I think I believe what you're doing is absolutely incredible. So maybe a bit of introduction. So Accelerate is actually a social enterprise. We brand ourselves as a social enterprise. In fact, when I first came back to Malaysia about 2 years ago, people were still struggling to understand the concept of social entrepreneurship. So then I had to really explain that. But good thing we have evolved. More people know about social enterprises, and so it's easier for me to explain nowadays. So we focus very much on youth employability. Our focus has always been about tackling the issue of youth unemployment as well, particularly focusing on actually providing the youths with the necessary upskilling programs that they need to become employable and to also allow them to become financially independent and financially sustainable. So in other words, I think in simpler terms, Accelerate is a social enterprise that runs upskilling programs such as entrepreneurship and career, as well as personal growth, in order to help the youths become more sustainable and independent, essentially. We've been running for about 2 years now. I started in 3, sorry. My apologies. The pandemic, I'm quite confused as to what year we are in at the moment, actually. But it's been 3 years. I started in 2019. I just started myself. I'm a sole founder, and then the company grew to where it is today. And from just, running it alone, I now have about 7 people in my team already, not just based in Malaysia. Some of them are abroad as well. And we are on the route of digitizing our upskilling programs as well.
Okay, so coming to the question of, you mentioned that the youth can go through the programs like upskilling programs through Accelerate. So is it open for all the youth in Malaysia and everywhere else, or is there a certain criteria that they must meet in order to?
Really good question. That's a really, really good question, actually. So when we first started back in 2019, it was very much targeted, mainly because, as a social entrepreneur, it was very important for me to first validate the efficacy of our programs,
Mm-hmm.
meaning before we start selling it to the wider public, of course, like any other startup, like any other businesses and social enterprises, it's really important for us to validate our business model and the products or rather the services that we are going to push out to the market. So back in 2019, our focus has always been to run our upskilling program with the underprivileged and marginalized youths first. And so back then, our focus has always been running our entrepreneurship program, our career program with those in the rural community whereby businesses pay Accelerate to run these programs. So we're talking about PwC Malaysia, who have actually funded our programs twice, American Chambers of Commerce, the United States Embassy, and so on and so forth. Now, that was 2 years ago. And in fact, we are still doing the exact same thing now. But what we have expanded on, though, is that we have actually opened up our programs to the wider public. So, youthers from literally any category or any economic status can always come to Accelerate and roll onto our programs and go through our programs. Now, this shift, or rather this expansion happened, think about last year. Early last year, actually, we started opening up our programs to the wider public. And we realized that the demand was really, really high. And at the time, we had only about 3 people in the team. Because at the time we were running on profit. So every time we make profit, it sort of just rolls over for operations. And that's how we ran the organization. We didn't have any investment or investors that came in. When we realized mid last year, that there was so much potential, we had so much demand, however, we could not meet them. Some of the youths were mentioning, can we go through the programs online? Can we do a self-paced learning kind of thing? But we couldn't, because all of our programs, we ran it live. And that's when we realized that, since there is a demand, we have proven the efficacy of our program, we have validated the quality of our program as well, it's time for us to scale up. So it was in October or September last year, we went for an equity crowdfunding campaign whereby we actually managed to raise over 400,000 ringgit through investment platform. Thank you, called Athis Malaysia. And now we are currently on the route of digitizing all of our programs and placing them onto our very own e-learning platform. I actually also wanted to humbly share, when I mentioned earlier that we have indeed proved the efficacy of our program, I'm so humbly proud to share that, for the past 2 years, 3 years that we've been working, it was really, really worth it, because it was that 3 years that we focused very much on ensuring that our programs work. And to this date, our programs have yielded 100% success rate. Every single youth that came on our entrepreneurship programs are now entrepreneurs, are now generating income. And 100% of the youths who went through our career programs are now employed and are able to actually stand on their own 2 feet.
That is very impressive.
Thank you. And I believe that's what differentiates us, with any other perhaps programs or any other upskilling programs that are available out there.
The 100% success rate that they have. Yeah. And I am sure they are all very, very grateful to have gone through the program. All right. So talking about your team that you mentioned, you went from yourself and then you have 3 and now you have 7. So how did you find this team of people? And then are they all around the same age as you, or did they...
different. Yeah. I'll answer the second question first, because I think it's really interesting. The oldest I have on my team is someone who is at 28 at the moment.
That's very young.
So all of them, I'm 20. Well, I turned 26 this year, but I always say I stopped at 25. Disclaimer there.
Yes.
26, but I stopped at 25. The oldest we've got is actually 28. And somehow or other, we always sort of attract the younglings to come in to Accelerate. And I think it just made sense a little bit more, I guess, because we are tackling the issue of youth unemployment, the things around youth. And I guess that's why we tend to attract people below 30, but that does not mean that I'm not keen to hire anybody above that age range. I'm cool with that. I'm open with that. Because to me, no matter how old you are, the most important element is the delivery, right? Whether or not you're able to deliver to the job, whether or not you are integral, and whether or not you are sincere to come on board and actually help empower the young people, not just in the country, but also abroad. Going to the question of where do I find them, which is very interesting, actually. So in my first year, I started alone, but I had a lot of volunteers that came in.
Okay.
Obviously, I had to be realistic, right? So I started Accelerate with zero capital to share with you. Literally, I capitalized on something called the zero cost strategy. I remember running my first workshop in July 2019, where I got the venue sponsored and everything else sponsored, and I ran a simple personal growth workshop. And then I got pure profits out of that. And because of that, I was never able to pay myself even, because we were just starting up.
Yeah.
And so I relied a lot on volunteers. But after a couple of months, I started realizing there was an influx of CVs that came in who were looking to intern with Accelerate voluntarily, meaning with no paid, unpaid internship. And I capitalized on that as well. I think one of the good things that we did at Accelerate is I always ensure that the finance aspect or the conversation about finance is always, talked about. We discussed about it. So I was very open in my first year of Accelerate. I mentioned, we don't have the money, but in any case, we run an event, then there will be a split of, let's say, the profit, for instance. And that was how I ran it.
Right.
And then after that, the second year, things got better because we kept on running the programs, and then we got, projects from all these businesses that were looking to fund Accelerate. And from there, I started to recruit. And even then, when I started to recruit, it wasn't difficult because I've always posted about Accelerate on my social media.
Yes.
And so there are always people who are looking to work with Accelerate, who are looking to support Accelerate. And from there, I sort of filtered and then started to interview candidates. So if you ask me why I found them, I think they found us.
They found you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I didn't actively, I wasn't actively looking. It was just the influx, or rather the funnel of talents were always there. Yes. In fact, one of our first full-time employees were our intern. That I actually absorbed. I absorbed her in to become a full-time employee, essentially. And that's usually how we roll. And it is from my panel sessions that I agreed upon to talk to. That's how we got interns. Basically, until today, all of the interns that applied to Accelerate are those who have either attended our programs, or those who have those who followed my Instagram, or those who have heard me talk somewhere. And I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I don't think in Malaysia or anywhere across the world there is a shortage of manpower. There's always youth looking for jobs, and but it's to them now in this society, it's more about what is the cause or the company that they want to work for and what do they bring forward, compared to previously where we just okay, I'm gonna study law and become a lawyer.
Right. Yeah. I studied law, so I'm sure you know that already.
Yeah. Actually, I studied law too, but that was like my second degree. Yeah. So, all right, that is very interesting. So, if you're doing the right thing, I'm sure the interns and the influx of abilities and everything will come to you automatically. All right. So, how did you step into the world of social entrepreneurship? And was it by chance, or did it become something that you wanted to do because you saw something? Is there a story behind it?
Oh, there is indeed a story behind it. So when I was 18, right after SPM, a national exam in Malaysia, I actually started my own NGO. It was called Khalifa, and it was very much focused on helping, or rather teach English to the orphanage kids, number one.
Okay.
And number two, giving food to the homeless people in Kuala Lumpur. And then I've always relied on, obviously, donations, right? You raise funds, crowdfunding and stuff like that. It was always just focusing on donations. Now, a question popped in my mind when I was 18 at the time, where I always wondered, how long do we have to rely on these donations? Because when they do run out, then your organization won't be able to move forward. And to me, there's always this, I feel very restrained from actually, sort of expanding the impact, sort of reaching out to more people, because there's only limited amount of funds and limited amount of donation. That was number one. Okay. And number two, whenever we go down, let's say, give food to the homeless people and run all these English lessons, which were very much seasonal with the orphanage kids, I always wondered, okay, what's next? Especially when we give food to the homeless people, whilst it is, of course, needed, because those short-term immediate relief is needed, right? I mean, they're not working. Somebody needs to give them food, which is fine. But I always question myself, okay, what's going to happen tomorrow or next
What
week,
is the long-term sustainability of it?
Because they're going to be in the vicious cycle, which is something that none of us want, because then the problem will still be there, and then, it's never going to end. However, I could not find a solution then. It was not until I actually flew to the United Kingdom that I learned about the concept of social entrepreneurship. It's a really funny story. So in the UK, in my first year, there's a freshers fair, much like orientation week in Malaysia, right? Where you can go around and meet people from other societies and sign up. So I remember signing up for like the cheerleading society, the dance society, whatever that I can, to make sure that I feel at home, because I was like 10,000 kilometers away from home. And I was on my way back when suddenly, literally, this man jumped out of nowhere and asked me, do you want to change the world? What do you say to that? Of course you say yes.
I'm not sure.
Of
course I do, right?
Exactly. I mean, you can't really say no to that, you're put on the spot. But I genuinely wanted to. So then I said, yes, of course. And then he said, okay, put down your email here. We'll get in touch with you. And so to cut the long story short, I got the email, I went to the meeting, and I realized it was a society called Enactors in my university. We do have Enactors in Malaysia as well. And I really loved it. So when I joined the meeting, I realized that the Enactors society in my university, it's not just an organization. It's not just a society. It's actually an LLP under the student union. Meaning it's a legitimate organization where you make profit, people are getting paid, and then all sorts of things. And I thought this is really, really cool. And they had a vacancy at the time, which was a project leader for a social enterprise project based in Ghana, Africa. And being the crazy lady that I am, I applied for it. Although I was the first year. I remember going to the interview, and literally everybody there were like second or third year. And they were all asking me, are you second or are you third year? And I said, well, I'm first year. And all of them said, oh my God, no one has ever applied when they're in their first year. It's like, fantastic, way to go. Thank you for, uplifting my confidence literally before the interview. But I did it anyway, Phoebe, and I got the job. And that was when I learned about the concept of social entrepreneurship. When I took on the role, I remember my president at the time told me, look, Raudhah, it's not just about helping these former sex trafficking women in Ghana. So it was a project helping former sex trafficking women in Ghana. It's also about ensuring that when you do run the social enterprise makes money. And then I was really struggling to understand that concept. But when I really, really dived into it, I realized that it can work. And so that's when I started to run entrepreneurship programs actually with these former sex trafficking women, because they couldn't work. Society didn't accept them, unfortunately. I'm sure you understand the taboo behind sex trafficking. But they all had tremendous, incredible skills. And so we decided to train them to become entrepreneurs. They started a bridal shop. It's still going strong until today. And then we gave them a micro loan. And so they pay us back with some interest as well. And then also they keep running the programs. And so some profits from the bridal shop goes back to the social enterprise. And so even though I've left the project, so to say, the project is still sustainable up until today. And that was my first role. And then after that, I got appointed as the president of the organization. I held the leadership position for about 2 years. I fell in love with it. I loved law as well. But I realized that my passion was more skewed towards social entrepreneurship, helping people stand on their own 2 feet. And I guess, that's how it all started. And basically, if you see Accelerate, it's literally running upskilling programs as well. And that's how it started. I mean, I must say, though, to share a little bit, I studied in Essex University. That was not my first choice, by the way.
Okay.
I missed by a grade, and Warwick rejected me. Was really sad at that time.
Well, thank God.
Exactly, because if had I gone to Warwick, I don't think I would be in the social entrepreneurship part.
There wouldn't have that man that jumped out to ask you whether you wanted to change the world or not. And now you're actually doing it.
Well, thank you. I don't know where he came from or how did he see me, but he saw me.
All right. He knew you would have come to do great things now. Right. That is very interesting. Thank you for sharing. All right. So how at just the young age of 25, well, we'll keep it at 25.
Yeah.
You have already accomplished so many things. And is there something that you would have done differently in law school or even before that, after your SPM?
I don't think so, Phoebe. I don't think so, because I feel like everything, I mean, although I did regret some of the things when I, in that moment, right? In that moment, you're like, I don't think I should have done this or whatever. But I feel like every single thing that I've gone through since high school up until today, they led me to where I am today. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Really and truly. I mean, career-wise, none. If you ask me about my personal life, no as well. I mean, I've dated tons of men, guys, technically, before I got married, and sometimes when I reflect, would I have, and what would I have done differently? I wouldn't, because at the end of the day, it helps me meet my husband. And I feel like it's time for us to own the story, our story.
Yes.
And there's really nothing to be ashamed of, because at the end of the day, it shapes you to who you are today. It made you mature. It helped you grow. And so I must say, I live a very blessed life.
That's good. That's very, very good. And a lot of young people nowadays, even at a young age, like 25 or 26, they're thinking, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done this. But, it's the things that get us where we are now, and we should be grateful for it.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay. So being a CEO and also, of course, a board member in a lot of advisory boards, which I'm sure has many members that are much older than you and also much more experienced. So what are some of the challenges that you have faced with this group of people or with the other generations? So can you share a little?
Yeah, particularly interesting question, actually, because to share with you a little bit, I grew up in a family whereby I never saw the age difference, or even gender difference, or even race difference. I've never seen it. I've always, when I see a human being, when I talk to them, I see them as a human being first. That's just how we were raised in my family, at least. And so whenever I talk to people, it was never like, oh, you're 60, I'm 20, or like I'm 20, you're 10, for instance, right? Or you're Malay, I'm Indian, or anything that way. I've never seen that. It's always, I'm talking to a human being, I'm going to take your opinion at that, as a human being, and so on and so forth. But things started to change when I grew up, basically. Things always change when you grow up, right? It was when I was like 21, I think, that I realized there was such disparity, and that people really see age, race and religion as something so different. And to be honest with you, I was a bit cultural shock, because I'm like, what's the difference, right? I mean, we're going to have to respect each other, but okay. Talking about age specifically, one of the things that I have faced is number one, it's either they think that they are doing much better than you, and so they're asking you to slow down because it's time for them to shine. I'm going to give you an example. When I came back from the UK and I wanted to start to accelerate, I remember talking to this one, a woman, unfortunately, and I told her about the idea of accelerate. And I told her, I'm really passionate about this. I really want to start this. And she literally said to me, leave it to the veterans to grow the social entrepreneurship ecosystem. And I thought that was really shocking. I'm like, who are these veterans? You know, tell me about them more. Let me meet them.
What do they know about social entrepreneurship?
No idea, right? No idea. And that's when I realized that, okay, this might just be a problem moving forward. And I realized it was the case. I'm not sure if it's Malaysia, because when I was in the UK, it was okay. It was not the age. In the UK, it was the race and religion. In Malaysia, it's the age, right? So I guess something's got to give in this life. But in Malaysia specifically, it was the age whereby, you know, they felt threatened by me. And so they tried to stop me from pursuing what I wanted to pursue. But what I did realize, though, at such an early age is there's no point fighting them. There's not even point to debate with them.
Yes.
Yeah. Correct. The only thing that you can do though is you prepare yourself and you, how do I say, you weaponize yourself with knowledge, with skills. And you show that you can do it. Yeah. So I remember I was very much focused on upskilling myself, reskilling myself, reading books, watching, you know, all these videos and enrolling myself into these courses to make sure that I can show to them that, yes, I may be 23 at the time, but I can do what I want to do. I can achieve things despite a young age. And I think it's just really important. Words. Yeah, absolutely, right? I think, and you know, the actions speaks. And then there's no way for you to fight them unless you showcase those actions.
Yeah.
However, a little caveat though, sometimes when you do have actions, it doesn't mean it's enough, by the way. They still think it's not enough. And so I've come to a point where, you know what, if you can't see it,
you just gotta accept it, right?
You know, because there are people who will value you. There are people who will accept you. There are people who will support you. As much as I start with this story, I must also share that I have great people, you know, that generational gap, you know, or rather different generations of people that have been supporting me. All of my board of directors are not in their 20s. I've got one that is in their early 30s. Some of them are in their 40s and 50s. Yet they are fully supportive of helping and empowering young entrepreneurs. And so it's about really finding those people that can support you. The lesser you focus on these group of people that are just trying to bring you down, the better you are at in actually acquiring them to be your allies. I think that's the most important thing. I feel like, I mean, when we talk about the youthist landscape, this might sound a bit controversial, but I feel like it's important to say it. It's if you can see now, a lot of youthers are speaking up, which is absolutely fantastic. There's a lot of rallies. Sometimes there are also riots as well. I'm not saying no to them. I'm just saying sometimes, as opposed to just speaking, let's do the actions. You know, let's execute. Let's solve the issues at hand. Because at the end of the day, you can speak as much as you want, but you know, the actions are louder than the words.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we all come across people, even in our own family, you know, but you can't control how others react or how others, you know, talk back to you, but you can only control yourself and upskill yourself, like what you've done.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to, well, you are the young generation, the younger generation, when you are working with different generations as, I mean, you started a social entrepreneurship global, Accelerate Global by yourself, and you managed to find the board of members that support you. But some of the younger generation, they have to start off with the first job before they can, you know, go on to choose who they want to work with. So sometimes you really don't have a choice of which generation you want to work with. So what kind of advice would you give to this younger generation?
Yeah, I think it's time for us to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I feel like at the moment there's a lot of clashes between generations. It's pointing fingers at every generation at the moment. It's your fault. It's your fault. No, you need to understand me. I need to understand you. No, you need to understand me. There's a lot of those things going on, and I feel like the world needs a bit more empathy and compassion. And I feel like the empathy and compassion should come from the younger generation by actually being open to something I'd like to call the intergenerational collaboration. I think that's really important. And I know some of the viewers or subscribers from your end might now question, oh, but they don't want to collaborate. So why should I collaborate, right?
Yes, that's true.
Right. I always believe, you're not supposed to let other people define how you operate. It doesn't matter if people don't want to collaborate with you. You don't fight evil with evil. You fight evil with good, right? And so let's say you do come across people who are not looking to collaborate, was not keen to collaborate, was not empowering and whatnot, all those negative words. I would suggest and I would advise for you to keep at it, to be steadfast in that positive attitude of wanting to collaborate, and then just hear them out. Because to be honest with you, a lot of problems or other clashes between generations happen when one of them don't listen.
Yeah.
And right now we need to start listening, and also we need to start taking action by actually showcasing more empathy and compassion. And if they cannot accept that, then okay, you know what I mean? You can only do so much, but at least the goodness come from us first. I think that's really, really important. To share with you a little bit, I've always given, everybody the benefit of the doubt. And so that is actually one of the major reasons as to why Accelerate is to where it is today. Like working with people, sort of respecting their opinion, accepting different opinions as well, does help them in their career growth, be it entrepreneurship, professional, corporate, and whatnot. I think that would be my advice, really.
Yep. Always take the first step that you want others to take for you.
Yeah. Spot on.
All right. So you have spoken a lot about upskilling and making sure you have the right skills, the right knowledge. So how do you constantly stay up to date with the latest skills and knowledge?
I think, good thing. What really helps is I am in the industry of upskilling programs, so I have to be aware. So I think, that's just one answer, because we do run
to join Accelerate programs.
That's
one way.
That's one way, right? But one of the things that I actually do to make sure that I stay on top of my game, actually there are two things. Number one is I read a lot. Actually, I make it a habit to just go through. Well, actually, one good thing is my social media. If you go through who I follow, there's a lot of Bloomberg, there's a lot of Forbes, a lot of, all these entrepreneurial magazine, a lot of news outlet that really just helps me stay on track. So every time I open my Instagram, it's much like I'm watching the news. And that really helps, right? Because even if you read the headlines, it at least helps you to understand what's going on in the world at the moment. I mean, of course, you're going to have to read it more to better understand, but at least you know what's going on. And I think that's really, really important to keep you on track, to remain relevant, be it as a person or as a business, because that's really important. Number two, what you have to really, really do, I think this is when it comes to upskilling myself, at least, I have to learn how to unplug, because to share with you a little bit, whilst it's important to stay relevant, whilst it's important to understand what's the next skill that's required, what's the new skill that's required, we also need to understand that as a human being, we tend to get really overwhelmed by all these things. Especially for me, when I look at competition of Accelerate, I get overwhelmed. I don't like it. And so it's really difficult for me to operate on such a manner where I'm looking left and right, front and back. that I can't focus on the product development of Accelerate. So what I do is there are days where I literally just unplug from the world to better understand what the company needs, what I need. Because when we look at the word relevancy, when we look at the word staying in trend, when we look at the word, just making sure that you understand what's going on in the market or in the world, sometimes we forget that sometimes what's relevant in the market might not be relevant to us. Especially when you run a social enterprise, a startup, or any other organization, you're going to have to understand maybe Elon Musk is already in Mars, right? But maybe that's not for us. We're not yet there. Okay, let's just stay on Earth for a bit.
Yes.
And so that unplugging really helps to center yourself, to better understand what is relevant for you, what is in trend for you and your organization. And I think that's really important. Those are the two things that I do, actually.
Yes, that's very interesting. A lot of big companies, CEOs, C-suites, the thing that they always don't do is to, calm down and just slow down, come back, look at what you and your company want to do. All right. I'm sure it wasn't a very easy journey getting to where you are today, and especially at such a young age. So you mentioned that you have a lot of support and good support, especially from your board members, from your family, and I'm sure your friends have all been very supportive. So what were some of the most important things that you had as support that allowed you to reach to where you are today?
A very good question, a very deep one, actually. It's going to sound really like, I'm going to sound like super pious right now, but I assure you I'm still a work in progress, by the way. But what really helps me push me and help me stay strong in this really rocky journey is actually my relationship with God. I think it's really obvious that I'm Muslim because I wear like a full hijab today, but that really, really helps. I think that centers me all the time. I'm not saying I'm pious at all. Like I said, I'm still work in progress, but knowing God is looking out for me, knowing that he's there and he will always protect me in times when I need him or when I don't even realize that I need him. Those things really, really help me move forward. But most importantly, my mother reminds me always that, we are all created by God, right? I mean, those who believe, of course, we are all created by God. And we believe that God is magnificent. He is incredible. And the fact that he chose us to live in this world, that means we at least have a percentage of his magnificence. He chose us in the first place to live, to breathe, to still, see things, to still do things. And that means something. And it's important that we see that. And I think understanding that for me really helps me to keep going, even on my darkest days, by the way. I mean, today is one of my stressful days. I woke up angry today. Oh my goodness. You have no idea how am I going to do the interview. I woke up angry. But really what reminded me is that, I've got him. Again, he chose me. He put me in this path. I'm sure there's a reason. And no matter how difficult it is, it's going to be okay. I think that's the biggest support that I have. There's something that I really believe in, which is also in my religion. God is, who you think he is. And so I always think good of him. And so I believe that's how the goodness comes into our life as well.
Yes. A lot of us are very in touch with our emotional, our physical, and all this, all of our spirit, but we always forget about our spiritual lifestyle, and that's very important. And I am very glad that you have God in you and you have that thinking of him protecting you, because it's every religion that we believe in. It's not just Muslim or Christian or Buddhist, but knowing that there is someone that put you here for a purpose, and it's always protecting you, that helps us. Yeah,
absolutely. It's in all religion, right?
Yeah, it's not it's not just one religion that teaches you that. Yeah All right. So even with so many things achieved, right? At such a young age, being a law graduate, CEO, founder, advisor.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So is there anything else that you have yet to achieve? Moving forward, what else would you want to achieve and want to do?
A lot. I mean, I haven't, I don't think I've made it in life. I know that I have not made it in life. It's not that I think I know that I've not.
Pressure's in for all of this.
I think everybody has a different definition, right? To share with you a little bit, I am very grateful for the life that I'm living in. Yes, I've achieved certain things in life, but I'm still again work in progress. I mean, there's a certain level of achievement that I wish to achieve in my life, both personally, professionally, and also emotionally and spiritually as well. But for the company, at the moment, to humbly share as well. So when we raised the investment funding last year, it actually put Accelerate on a trajectory because we were valued at 1.5 million US dollars. And I thought that was a big achievement, right? It's a social enterprise, and not all social enterprises are valued at over 1 million USD. But then again, there's still a lot more to achieve in terms of empowering the lives of the youth, especially the underprivileged and the marginalized. I mean, there are a lot of them who are still not in education. There's a lot of them who are still unemployed, a lot of them who are still needing that upskilling programs or that push in order for them to unleash the best in youthers. So if I can share, I guess the next mission of Accelerate at the moment is to execute and roll out this platform that we are rolling out very much soon, to make sure that we can actually reach out to more youthers out there. Now, the platform that we are building at the moment, we are digitizing all of our upskilling programs, placing them onto our very own e-learning platform. And what's really, really unique about our platform is that for every subscription fee paid for, one underprivileged youth will be given access to our programs and the education courses that will be in the program itself. And I thought, that's the only way we can reach as many people as possible.
Yes.
And at a faster rate. Because if we're waiting for grants after grants, it's going to be really slow. It's time for us to democratize education. And I think that's going to be really beautiful. I think that's the next achievement in line. And I really hope it's going to take off.
All right. I'm going to take you out from Accelerate for a little while and ask you how about your personal life?
Interesting. I mean, I'm married, happily married, actually. Kids,
for how long?
I don't think so. 3 years, actually.
Oh, wow. Okay.
3 years.
So when you got back from UK, you got married.
Yep. So I got married on the 7th of January, 2020, 2 months before the pandemic started.
Okay.
My goodness. My husband is European. He's from Croatia. And we're so glad that we got married, because if not, he wouldn't be able to fly in during the pandemic. So we got married. Let's talk more about that, actually, since you touched on my personal life, right? So I've got this question a lot, where you're married, you have a job, you have a social enterprise. How is that for you? And is it important that you marry early? Because I did marry quite early, to be honest with you, at 23. At 23. But I must assure all the other girls out there who are listening, it was my choice to get married. It was not because the society pressured me. It was not because my parents or my family were like, oh my God, you're getting old and get married. No, my parents are not like that. My family, for one, it's not like that at all. I got married because it was my choice. I found the right man and I loved him. And I think it's just really important to understand that. It turns out that I got married early, that's all. But I always say, if I hadn't met him, I think I'd still be single today. For sure. Because Accelerate is like consuming me already, right? And so there's no way I'm getting married anytime now. Or, if I had it.
And I'm sure he's very supportive of what you're doing.
He is indeed.
And you guys are staying together in Malaysia?
Yes. Okay. He came back.
So he came here to stay here. Okay.
Yeah. In terms of children, no. Personal goal. It's difficult, Phoebe, because Accelerate is personal.
Wait, let's go back. In terms of children, no at all, or no right now?
I don't know.
Okay.
I did an article actually for Tatler Malaysia, I think a few months ago, last year, and they asked me that question of being child free.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know then, and I don't know now.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have conversations with my husband, and he's been really supportive about it. Like I told him, I can't handle kids. I mean, I like teenagers, not even teenagers. I like young
Can we just
adults.
skip that part? Just make them grow up.
Yeah, no, like just let them grow up, right? But I don't know yet. Maybe not. Maybe yes. Maybe later. But I think I'm very proud of that decision that I make, of being able to say I don't know. And
yes,
I think a lot of women,
a lot of girls should.
Yeah, a lot of women are struggling to just say their piece and just say what they really think. But then again, I think it's just a reminder to all girls out there who are listening to own yourself, because at the end of the day, the child will be in you. You'll be carrying the human being. You have a say,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. I am 4 months, and it really isn't easy.
Really? Oh my God.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
kudos to you. Really. Hats off. Hats off.
If I had accelerate, I would have the same thinking as you. I would be like, no, thank you. Even right now, it's like, oh, do I really need to get up?
Oh my God. Bless you though.
Oh, thank you. All right. So before we went back to children, you were talking about personal goals.
Yep. Personal goals. Yes. I wanted to say that okay, let's take a step back, right? So I don't have a relationship with my biological father.
Mm-hmm.
My mother and him, got a divorce when I was literally a child. I've met him literally like only twice, not willingly. It was literally just for legal matters. And I've always, I mean, my mom was a single mother, but now she remarried happily, good. And I'm very happy for her. But throughout my teenage years, I've seen her as a single mother who supports us, who's the breadwinner of the family. And so what I really wanted for myself was to become the independent woman like her. And I really, she always reminds me that, Raudhah, when you do get married, you don't depend on your husband to give you a house, to give you a car, have your own. We're not saying that the marriage will break apart or whatever. It's just, as a woman, you're going to have to take care of yourself. And throughout my high school journey, I've always had a target, like, when I'm 20, I need to have a car under my own name. I need to have a house under my own name. But that did not happen when I was 20. Okay, let's be real. It was a dream, it was a goal, but I did not achieve that. And I have achieved some of that financial independency that I want, but I'm still not there yet. I think it's because that financial independency, that definition has changed for me. And so I'm still looking at achieving that. There's no number that can help me understand that, okay, I've achieved financial independency. I think it's more of a lifestyle that I'm trying to create. It's more of a comfort that I'm trying to create. And I'm still identifying that, and I think until I understand that, I guess I will be able to achieve that.
So that is your personal goal, to be financially independent as a woman.
As a woman, that is, But then again, if you look at the other flip side, it's also the impact bit. But I'm going to reserve myself because we talked about that with Accelerate, right? But let it be on record that whatever Accelerate goals are, they are mine as much as they are the company's.
Of course. All right. So we have come to the last question.
Already?
Yes. Or do you want this to go on for longer? I can pick up some questions. I still have the game questions that I will do later on, so no worries. All right. So what do you think is an in control life for you?
I think it's understanding how you operate as a person. Really, I feel like days when I just don't understand myself, or I couldn't really understand why I'm a certain type of way, or why I'm angry, or why I'm confused at times, or why I'm sad, it really makes me feel like I'm not in control of my life. And I don't like it, right? I mean, the most important thing about being in control is that you are in control with yourself. You understand how you operate, why you feel a certain type of way, why you're behaving a certain type of manner. And that to me is being in control of one's life. Understanding how we operate is as important as eating every day to make sure that you can live, really.
Yes.
I feel like, you know, living a life where you don't understand who you are, living a life where you don't understand how you operate, why you feel a certain type of way, why you're reacting a certain type of manner, it's not life to begin with. I think it's really, really important that we try and take time to explore ourselves.
Yes.
I think we owe it to ourselves to understand ourselves.
Yes, I think now in the society, it is a thing that has been going around, and it is absolutely beautiful that people are starting to take care of themselves more.
Absolutely.
Mothers are starting to realize that in order for their child to grow, they need to take care of themselves. Fathers are taking care of their body instead of, and it is really, really a great thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Agreed. 100%. Really.
Yeah.
And that is being in control.
Mm.
Yes. Yeah. And at the end of the day, the power is knowledge, right? I mean, knowledge is not just about the academic knowledge. It's not just about the skills you need to harness when you're in employment or when you're in entrepreneurship. It's also knowledge about yourself.
Yes. Yes.
And then how you are as a person.
Mm. Yeah. All right. Right. So that was the last question, but I still have a few more questions. So I have the scenario cards here, scenariocards.org. And I'm going to ask you a few questions. So it will range from simpler to a little harder, and it will talk about your personality, the potential, some may be your imagination, and also, of course, the world. Right? Okay, so we'll start off with the simpler one first.
Okay.
So what if you could stop one thing you do every day? So what would you eliminate?
Eating.
Okay.
Yep, just because it's taking too much of my time. First of all, let me clarify if I can.
Yes, please do.
It takes too much of my time. I mean, first of all, I don't even eat much in a day. Okay. Mm-hmm. Like, I am the type of person that prefers sleep over breakfast.
Agreed. I would totally be that. Yeah.
So if I have a meeting at 9, I will wake up at 7:30 because I get ready 40 minutes, an hour tops, and then I'll straightly go for my meeting. I am not capable, and I will not compromise my sleep for eating. And then but what I do need though is coffee. So I have my coffee, which is fantastic. Mm-hmm. Done. And then I'll go through the day. I will skip lunch because there's just no time. Okay. And then I'll come back at about 6, 7, I'll eat dinner, and that's all. Thinking about eating is such a struggle for me because I don't know what to eat sometimes. So I would let go of that. That makes it sound so unhealthy. Parental guidance required. Do not follow Raudhah. That was just me being really candid, by the way.
Okay, but that was a very interesting answer. I was like, eating? I mean, I love food, but when you talked about sleep over food, yeah, I would agree. Okay, next question. What if money were no object and you could go back to school to learn for fun? What would you study?
I would study English and history.
Okay.
Yeah. I've always loved English classes. Fun fact, kids used to make fun of me because I have an accent. But the thing is that accent is just from I was a kid. I mean, my grandparents, they used to live in the UK. My grandfather is a Singaporean. And so they have an accent. And so I hear it since I'm little.
So you just caught on to it.
It's just there. I mean, I can sound Malay when I'm around Malays, but when I start speaking English, it will tune into that.
Okay. But so that makes it easy for you when you went over to the UK.
It did. It helped. Yeah. I mean, I felt more at home, unfortunately. I didn't have a sense of that. I love Malaysia. Okay. Anyway, kids used to make fun of me in school, but I really loved English classes. I befriended the English teachers because they're the only ones who could understand me. And I love history because I somehow have this photographic memory where I know exactly where the answer is when I do history exams. Yeah, I don't know. It's like, okay, that question is on this page on the left side of the text. I don't know. I'm weird. Okay.
Actually, I other than English was like, an add-on, but history, yes. And I guess that's why we like law,
Exactly.
right? That's why we took up law.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah.
when we were in SPM and all that, they were saying, oh, if you want to take law, you have to go through history and your sejarah must be good. And then we're like, why? Until we finally went into law class and then we're like, oh, so this is why.
Yeah, got it.
Okay. Okay. What if you could legalize one thing for all of humanity? What would you legalize?
Ooh. Oh my God, that is difficult. I don't know. What is illegal to begin with? There's a long list of illegal things. I'm gonna have to think right now. I don't know. Oh, actually, I do know. You know how sometimes when homeless people, I don't know if it happens in Malaysia. Oh yeah, it does happen in Malaysia. I read a case.
It does,
yeah.
Yes.
They go to marts and all these grocery stores, and they take food for their family, and then they charged for robbery and theft. I think we should legalize that. Given their economic status, I think, yeah.
I mean, we'll have like a proper system for them to, do that.
With proper system, absolutely. With proper due diligence that they are indeed from that category, of course.
Okay, last question. What if today was your last opportunity to speak, to uplift the world? What would your message be?
Ooh. I would say take the risk now and not later. Because at the end of the day, you only live once, and the risk you take today might just be your biggest point of growth. And it might just be the reason why you can maximize your full potential as a human being.
And I'm sure that's what you did.
I did exactly that. Yes.
All right. Okay, we have come to the end of this. Thank you so much, Raudhah, for your time today and for your great sharing. Really enjoyed this session. And thank you to our audience for listening to our podcast and YouTube. And we hope you enjoyed this podcast. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn for more episodes in the future. And if you'd like to join a program at Accelerate, do head on over to their website at www.accelerateglobal.co. And if you also believe in advocating for the youths of the world in their journey, they are open for volunteers and interns. So similarly, you can find these opportunities on their website. So see you in our next episode. Thank you so much, Raudhah.
Hi, guys.